too big, too grandiose of ideas, but maybe they were too small. Maybe you weren't too ambitious. Maybe you weren't ambitious enough. If you have a Bible, we're going to be in Acts chapter 3. And if you don't have a Bible, we're still going to be in Acts chapter 3. You can just participate by reading the verses off the screen, and we'll put them up for you. The book of Acts is an amazing book. It picks up where the Gospels leave off, because in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, four perspectives telling the same story. You have the chronicling of what Jesus did while he was on the earth. Then he leaves and goes to heaven, but sends his Holy Spirit. And it's the exact same story. It's now what Jesus is doing through his church, powered by the Holy Spirit, as they fulfill his marching orders, which was go into all the world and tell this amazing good news of my resurrection and me being the Lord and being the King and being the guy. Tell it to everybody. And no matter what they've done, no matter how much of a mess they've made of their lives, no matter anybody, anywhere, can believe and receive life in my name. So that's the job the disciples were given. So they did their best. They went all over the ancient world. And Acts covers them going from Jerusalem, where they started out, all the way to Rome, the capital of the Roman Empire. And by the time the book of Acts closes, you have literally this guy, Paul, sharing the gospel in the presence of the most powerful person in the world, testifying before Caesar himself. And so it's an amazing journey. And where we're jumping in Acts chapter 3, there's a story that to me just really is the perfect launching off point for what we are going to be talking about in this series that we were beginning this weekend called Keep the Change. Everyone say, keep the change. You want to hang on to that change. You don't want it to get out of your sight. So that's what we're going to talk about. Keeping the change here in Acts 3. And congratulations to all of you. So far, you have perfect church attendance this year. So man, wow, good job. Just got to see how many weekends in a row you can string that together. But so far, you're doing really good this year. So good on you. Acts 3, here's what we find. It says, now Peter and John, these are guys who literally walked around with Jesus, touched him after he died, and rose and saw him ascend to heaven bodily. They went up together, everyone say together, to the temple at the hour of prayer, the 9th hour. That's 3 p.m. Took me a little while to figure that out. The Jews count time from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., so therefore the 9th hour that'd be 3 p.m. I was really confused for a while. I was like, what is the 9th hour? I don't know. And a certain man, lame from his mother's womb, so that means he couldn't walk his entire life, was carried. Why? Because he couldn't walk. Why didn't he ride in a wheelchair? Because it was not the same as it is today. How far we've come, especially in this country, to make the world wheelchair accessible. And you just think about how hard it would be. I recently was in a hotel room. They ran out of room, so they gave me a wheelchair accessible room, and there was a button you could push, and it would open up the lock, and the door would open by itself, and you could just ride right into the bathtub and shut a door that would seal, and water would rise up. And I just think it's amazing how far we've come in being able to help make the world accessible for those who have it difficult and are challenged in that way with mobility. And this guy had to get carried because there were not other options like that. So he gets carried. They laid him daily at the gate of the temple, which is called Beautiful. So the temple had a lot of different gates. And this particular gate he would like to hang out at was called the Beautiful Gate. And what a cruel irony to be at a gate named Beautiful, but to have a life that is anything but. It would just be full of so many challenges. And what was he get taken there for? Well, here it says, to ask alms from those who entered the temple. How interesting that when he wanted to receive financial gifts to help him live, he didn't have his friends take him and drop him off at the grocery store or the bar or at a sporting event. He had them basically take him to church. Sit me outside that temple. Sit me outside this building where people are going to come and worship God. And why? Well, he supposed that those who would spend time with their minds on heaven would then be more generous to their fellow person. And I think it should be that way. I think, let me tell you something, anytime we are able to come and build up our love for God and it doesn't translate to a deeper love for people and specifically for alleviating the suffering that people are dealing with, I would tell you that something's broken in the first category, that it's not working properly. If we can say, God, I love you, but then that doesn't flow out to love towards people, then we're not doing it right. And this guy's banking on that. They're going to be more generous because they're worshipers. I mean, it's like kind of cunning, but it should be that way. And it says in verse 3, who seeing Peter and John about to go into the temple, asked for alms. And fixing his eyes on him with John, Peter said, look at us. Look at us. Who seeing Peter and John about to go into the temple, asked for alms, verse 3, verse 4, and fixing his eyes on him with John, Peter said, look at us, verse 5. So he gave them his attention. Why? Expecting to receive something from them. Then Peter said, silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk. So he took him by the right hand and lifted him up. And immediately his feet and ankle bones received strength. Luke is a doctor who wrote this book, and he can always be counted on to give us unnecessary medical information. If it, like, you couldn't just say the guy got up. He's like, no, his feet and ankle bones received strength. Like, thank you, Dr. Luke. Like, just give us the facts, buddy. All right. So, verse 8, he, the guy who had been lame since birth, leaping up, stood and walked and entered the temple with them, walking and leaping and praising God. And all the people saw him walking and praising God. I bet they did. Then they knew that it was he who sat begging alms at the beautiful gate of the temple, because it was like an everyday thing for him. And they were filled with wonder and amazement. Everyone say wonder and amazement. That should be the reaction to Jesus working in our lives. People who knew us best should be like, what? What? Who the heck are you? Wonder and amazement at what had happened to him. One of my favorite things, like friends I went to school with, like middle school, would look at me and be like, what the heck? You do what? That doesn't add up. I'm like, that's wonder and amazement. God's good. Wonder and amazement at what had happened to him. Verse 11, now, as the lame man who was healed held on to Peter and John, all the people ran together to them in the porch, which is called Solomon's, greatly amazed. So they were amazed and not a little bit of amazed. So verse 12, never one to miss an opportunity when there's a captive crowd, a bunch of people standing around. So when Peter saw it, the opportunity, man, he grabbed it real quick. He responded to the people, men of Israel, why do you marvel at this? Or why do you look so intently at us as though through our own power or godliness we made this man walk? And who do you think he's going to point them to instead of look at me? He's going to say, this was done by Jesus. And that's exactly what he does. He talks about Jesus who died on the cross, Jesus who rose from the dead, Jesus who's the Lord of all, Jesus who's the King, Jesus who's the one who healed this man. And he says, wrapping it up in verse 16, and his name, through faith in his name, has made this man strong, whom you see and know. Yes, the faith which comes through him has given him this perfect soundness in the presence of you all. Come on, praise God, because that is a great story. I want to preach to you a message that I'm calling Making Sense of Change. Jot it down if you take notes in church. Making sense of change. We are going to be talking about that exact subject through this series, change. And it's a perfect thing because I think all of us, it's natural as a year ends, as a new year begins, all of our hearts, they kind of start to gravitate towards change. And it's a good thing. I've heard pastors like berate New Year's resolutions, like they were like a bad thing. Like, oh, really? People assessing what's not going good in their life and wanting to see different things happening, that's a bad thing? Like, no, I think we need more of it, not less of it. I think we should start every quarter like that. Start every new month like that. Start every day like that. Come on, somebody. His mercies are new every morning. You get a new year every day. But when we come to the actual end of a year, there's a real beautiful, poetic, the Bible's all about seasons. And as a year ends, that's a whole season coming to fruition. The Bible says as long as the earth remains, it's going to be seed time and harvest, and seed time and harvest, and seed time and harvest. So this is going to happen. It's going to be cold and then hot, and then cold and hot. And so there's something really cool about celebrating a whole trip around the sun that we would say, okay, before we go flying around the sun again, let's take inventory. Let's think about it. That's good. The Bible says make a vow to God and then pay it. The Bible does not like shy away from us making some thoughts, making some commitments, and certainly this is a good thing. Now, having said that, of course, we don't seem to be too terribly good at living out the oaths that we make.
The start of a new year is a perfect time to think about the changes we want to make in life. Lose weight, read more, quit smoking, stay in touch with family. But how do we keep those changes? Whether it's in ourselves, our relationships, or with Him, God wants to give us lasting life change, and Keep the Change series gives us practical tools on how to do that. Visit levilusko.com or call the number on the screen, and for a gift of $20, you can receive the entire series on DVD. Let's learn together how to keep the change.
New Year's resolutions, like any resolution, I suppose, it's easier said than done. And we've all been there where we make some big oath, in January 1, and then, it fizzles out by February. I've actually had some New Year's resolutions that didn't even make it into the new year. Have you been there? Like in December, you're like, I'm going to do that this time. And then like halfway through January, you're like, oh, crap, I forgot about that. Right? Anybody honest enough? It's like New Year's resolution didn't even make it into the new year. It was just all good intentions. Yeah, been there too. And so, how do we reconcile that? Well, I want to just maybe ask a question. This message is just kind of be an introductory. We're not getting into the guts of it yet. We'll have time in the series to kind of get into the mechanics of change and what we can do to optimize our lives and to be wise, as the Bible would say. But in this introductory message, I want to kind of begin by asking you this question. What if in years gone by, when it was just all good intention in January, February, and then back to business as usual by March. What if, maybe just maybe, the reason those New Year's resolutions didn't lead to change that you kept was because they were not too big, too grandiose of ideas, but maybe they were too small. Maybe you weren't too ambitious. Maybe you weren't ambitious enough. I'm suggesting, I'm not answering the question for you, you gotta answer it for yourself. I'm just saying, maybe you didn't aim too high and ask too much. You aimed too low and asked too little. Here before us in this story is a passage about a man who God's design, here's God's design, was to radically change his life. So completely that after you met him, his life bore no resemblance to what it looked like before he had this change event. This change occurred in his life that he, in fact, got to keep, right? So radically was he changed that in body, in mind, in spirit, he was a different person. He was a new person. But he almost got out of this impacting event with a change in his heart. He almost settled for a change so short of what God had for him potentially to experience that he almost walked away with, by his own request, with a change so small it was laughable. A change he never would have been able to keep is what he almost settled for. And that's what maybe I'm afraid of for you and for me. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say the change you need might not be the change you want. I'm saying maybe we should, before we write down the resolution and move into the new year, really consider whether it's a want thing or a need thing. Because the text tells us that as Peter and John walked into the temple, the text tells us they noticed this man lying there. So you cannot have a need addressed until you notice the need. Now, it seems, as you read it, as Peter was the one who acted on it, that John was the one who noticed the need. And that lines up with what we know of their character and their personalities and just kind of how they rolled, Peter's the gruff one. Get up, like, get up. Just what are you lying there for? Get up, right? But John, who's lying tenderly on Jesus's, shoulder at the Last Supper. John, who nicknamed himself the disciple Jesus loved. It would be for sure fitting for John, the only of the disciples who showed up at the cross, to be the one who noticed this need. Now, we just got to pause right there and say this: how differently Acts 3 would go had not Peter and John noticed this need. It would have gone like this. Peter and John went to the hour of prayer and went in and prayed, and then Peter and John went home, and that would be Acts 3. And if you read Acts 4, where they go to prison, and there's a trial, and this whole thing, like there's like a cataclysmic shift that happened here in Acts 3 and Acts 4, but it started because they noticed a need. So my question to me is, how many needs am I walking by but I'm texting? How many needs am I sitting next to you but I'm scrolling through my feed? Are we aware of the need that's around us? Are we aware of the people that we're interacting with? Are we potentially missing out on miracles because we're just otherwise preoccupied? So he noticed the need. Maybe that's just enough of the sermon. You could go home right now to start noticing the need in your home. What's the atmosphere of your children's faith? What's the atmosphere of the personality? How are they doing? What's the climate at work? The coworker you sit next to that you have idle chatter with about the weather and what they watched on TV. Like, how are they doing? Are they hurting? What's going on in their family? What's happening in the people that we walk by? These are living souls. They're going to live forever somewhere. And God put us to intersect with them for just a moment, maybe just a moment that we'll never get back. And what are we doing with that little brief exchange? Are we doing anything we can to impart just a little bit of life and just a little bit of the brightness in our eyes that Jesus put there? Are we doing what we can to pass that on? You cannot address a need that you don't notice. They noticed the need, right? Now let's bring it home to our own lives. What need do you need to notice inside yourself? Because there's a big difference in this passage from what he wanted to what he needed, isn't there? What he actually needed, he didn't even notice anymore because he had lived with it so long. This man didn't even notice the fact that he couldn't walk. From birth, he hadn't walked. So he's not thinking like, I hope I'm gonna walk this year. Like that ship had so sailed. For decades and decades and decades, this guy had been immobile, so that's not even on his mind. So when he gets two apostles who cruise by one day and he gets a request and he gets to rub the genie magic lamp, like what does he ask for? A little bit of money. He's lying there, and he just asks for alms. The text says, could I just have a couple dollars? He's just hoping to get a couple coins to rub together in his tin cup, right? And what if they would have given him that money and then walked on? He would have had change that he could not have kept. He would have spent it, and he would not have kept it, okay? And so what did God want to give him? God wanted to give him mobility. God didn't want to give him spare change. He wanted to give him life change. He didn't want to give him a little bit of money. He wanted to give him a miraculous mobility that would change the game forever. So what he was focused on and fixated on was something he wanted, but it wasn't truly his greatest need. And so as we approach a brand new year, this is a recalibration point for us. It's just a passing of time for us. And one of if we don't get hit by a bus earlier, 70, right? Some 70 years, that's just doing pretty good, 80 years maybe. One of those years have just ticked by, and so we're going into a new one, and we're saying to ourselves, what change needs to happen that I'm gonna focus on intentionally, because I can't focus on everything, because that's the same as focusing on nothing, but if I'm going to identify an area, what is it gonna be this year? Let's make sure it's a need and not just a want, because we might grab the equivalent of a couple coins compared to what God wants us to have. So you go, okay, I want to lose not a couple coins, I want to lose a couple pounds this year. No, that's a perfectly good thing. We should take care of our bodies. I would certainly not at all suggest you steer away from taking good care of your body, but let me just say this. You could have a problem that's a need that you don't notice that's not a couple pounds overweight. It could be that you're defined by your body. And so let's say you do manage to get in shape this year. What will you have done? You'll have just traded a fixation with food with an unhealthy fixation with fitness. And you've just swapped idols out now. and something else now you're focusing on and getting your worth from and your validation from, that what comfort food was before, now it's this, and binging, now it's just marathon working out, and a million selfies of yourself at the gym. Is it any better? So you say, well, it's not a few pounds for me. My few coins maybe that you might grab would be, I want to budget better. I want to spend money better. I don't like that I'm always in debt. I want to get out of debt. Okay, but you know what? There are greedy rich people just like there are greedy poor people. And if you're focused on money as someone who doesn't have it, you'll be focused on money as someone who does have it. So that doesn't change anything. That's just a couple coins that you won't be able to keep that change. If you say, oh, it's this relationship, it's my relationship problem. What I'm suggesting to you is it might not be a relationship problem. It might be a forgiveness problem, that you don't give forgiveness to people. And so you could patch up this relationship and get it through this next year a little bit better than other ones in your life, but your other relationships are going to suffer too, because maybe what you need is a better forgiving heart. And if you let God address that, that's change you can keep. Just like this man who once God decided to not give him what he asked for, but instead to give him what he no longer even noticed was a need in his life because he had lived with it for so long. What was God able to do? God was able to give him what he asked for eventually through what he didn't know he even needed. What are you even saying? I'm saying once his legs worked, what was homeboy able to do? Go get a job. And once he had the job with his newfound ability to work, which was not a possibility before, what was he able to do? He was able to get dollars and he was able to get cents. How? With his change. His change made sense. I liked it. I like that title. I worked all week on that. Now listen to me very carefully. His destiny, like yours, was accessed through disappointment. And I believe that oftentimes the only way for us to get to what God knows we need is for, at times, him to not allow us to have what we think we want. Because there was a point when he could have gotten mad. When Peter and John are there, and he says, alms for the poor. And Peter and John say, silver and gold we do not have, but we give you something in the name of Jesus. Now, I've been around situations like this enough to know this could go one of two ways here. It could end with Peter and John being physically assaulted, right? I mean, I've seen intense anger arise when someone realizes you're not going to give them what they want. Maybe you're offering to buy them a hamburger instead, right? Maybe you're offering to take them somewhere, help them out. Like you're trying to give them a hand up instead of a hand out, whatever. Like that's what it seems like this is going, and this could go very badly. He could immediately shift his attention to other worshipers who, you're wasting my time. These guys might give me money over, right? He got disappointed. It was a chance for him to be offended. Right. And so it always is. Before we ever get to our destiny, there has to be opportunity for disappointment along the way, because what we think we need isn't always what God knows we need. But if we're willing to go with him on the ride, because here this guy is, and now a strange man just says in the name of Jesus, and what does he do? Peter grabs him, the text says, if you look again, by the right hand. By the right hand. Now in the Bible, the right hand is always the hand of authority. God upholds us with his mighty right hand. For this man, lameness had authority over him. It defined him from his mother's birth. That was who he was. That was his story. But now Peter says in the name of Jesus, here's the right hand of a different name that's going to speak a better word over your life. And this man had the choice to take that. Peter could pull, but he still had to get up. Peter could pull, but he still had to rise. Jesus gave the power, but he had to choose to stand up to his feet before his ankle bones retrieve strength. And I feel like God wanted me to tell somebody, he's got the power, but you still have to choose to get up. In this new year, you're going to have to choose to rise up. No one's going to make the choices for you. You're going to have to accept the power of God in the moment.
I love this story and the way that it illustrates that oftentimes the change that we're hoping for is actually different from the change that we really deep down need. This beautiful story from Acts 3 illustrates that so poetically, because this man wanted change. Just like at the beginning of a new year, so many of us are thinking about the change that we want to see in our bodies, or the change that we want to see in our bank accounts, or the change that we want to see in our relationships. But maybe, just maybe, the change that you and I need is deeper. It's something more fundamental to our hearts and to our souls, where if we had a change in our relationship status from single to dating or single to married, we would still be just as lonely as we are or just as unforgiving as we are. But if God shifted something deep down that we weren't even aware of, then no matter what our state was when it came to relationships, we would be at a healthy spot. You know, you can be just as penniless or just as ungenerous when you have a lot of money as when you don't have a lot of money, in the measure of true wealth when it comes to being blessed. And so I think we have to see God bring us the change we need before we can see him do things about the change that we just want. If God would have given the man the money he was asking for, he never would have received the life change and the mobility that he was looking for. So as we bring this broadcast to a close, I would just really encourage you to get along with the Lord and ask him to show you what is really, at the end of the day, the issue in your heart that maybe is holding you back. David said, "Search me and know me, God. Try me and